Hare, Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, text 55. Mat karma krit mat paramo. Mad bhakta sangha varjita.
Mad bhakta sangha varjita.
Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu.
Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu.
Yasa mam eti pandava.
Yasa mam eti pandava. Yeah, I'll read. Translation. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme Himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now, here is a verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. As stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ana Shaktasya Vishayan Yatharham Upayun Jata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna and he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is called Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna, and one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there. But it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land in India, at least any poor man, has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers to offer him. One can sow tulasi plants because tulasi leaves are very important, and Krishna has recommended this in Bhagavad Gita. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him either a leaf or a flower or fruit or a little water, and by such an offering he is satisfied. This leaf especially refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi and pour water on the plant. Thus, even the poorest man can engage in the service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. The word Mat Parama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets, such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyotir effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavana. He has full knowledge of that planet and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Mad Bhakta, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with Him, and surrendering everything to Him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8, or 7, or at least in one, and that will surely make one perfect. The term Sangha Varjita is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as follows. Anya Vilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anamtram Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna, that is called pure devotional service. Anuku, Anukul Yasya Sankalpa Pratik Kulyasya Varjanam Hari Bhakti Vilasa. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Kancha was an enemy of Krishna. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, Kamcha planned in so many ways to kill him. But because he was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, and while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable, and therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, he was considered a demon, and Krishna at last killed him. Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately, but that is not the aim of the pure devotee. The pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Goloka Vrindavana. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy. Nirvaire, Nirvaira. How's this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India also there are many examples such as Thakura Haridasa and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. And it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such person the planet must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is the manifestation of the original Vishwarupa, or Vishnu Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important. But the original form, the two-handed Shyam Sundara, in the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyam Sundara, form of Krishna in love and devotion, can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form.
So here, this last verse of the 11th chapter, text 55. So Prabhupada is saying this is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying how one can come to him. Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So Prabhupada is saying that this is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. We each and every one of us have a loving relationship with Krishna, a very, very intimate, very loving, personal relationship with Krishna. And we can revive our relationship if we can act according to this verse. So the devotee, he wants to go to the spiritual sky, to Krishna Lok, Golok Vrindavan. Why? Because Krishna is there. He wants to be in this personal relationship with Krishna. He wants to have this personal uh, connection with Krishna. Now we have to understand when we are saying personal relationship, personal connection, it's nothing to do with the body, not with the material body. We are not the body, we are spirit souls. The soul has a spiritual body. It's not that all bodies are material. There are spiritual bodies. So in the spiritual planet, everyone has spiritual bodies. That's what we have to understand. So Bhagavad Gita is showing us how we can understand that we are not the body, we are spirit souls, and that we have a loving relationship with Krishna, which is eternal. It can never be broken, no matter which body we are in, no matter where we are. Our relationship with Krishna can never ever be broken. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us how we can revive this relationship and how we can go back home, back to Godhead. So work, then Prabhupada is helping us understand what is Krishna karma. Krishna karma doesn't mean that we don't do any work, but we do all sorts of work and offer the result to Krishna. So here in this verse, for example, Prabhupada is saying one may build a temple for Krishna. One can, of course, live in that building. But the idea to understand that Krishna is the proprietor, one may perform any kind of business, but understand that Krishna is the proprietor of the business. So the 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 money that is generated from that business should be employed or should be utilized for Krishna conscious activities, should be given to the devotees who are working so hard to propagate this Krishna consciousness all over the world. Or one can install the deity of Krishna in the home and serve the deity. So all the result of the work to offer to Krishna, not being attached to the result of the work. And that is called Krishna karma. Hmm. Food, we all need to eat food, so offering food to Krishna first and then accepting it as prasadam. All that becomes Krishna karma. Cleaning the temple, that is Krishna karma. Prabhupada is giving the example that we can, grow some flower, some tulsi for Krishna, offer it to Krishna. This is all work which is done for satisfaction of Krishna. And in this way, one can serve Krishna. And in this way, one works for Krishna. Matparama is one who has understood that the perfection of life is to associate with Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. Such a person is Matparama. He's understood that I need to go back home, back to Godhead, to be with Krishna. So he does not even want to go to the heavenly planets, to the higher planets, sun, moon, or whichever, Brahmaloka even. Brahmaloka is the highest planet in this universe. So it has the maximum facilities. For example, in the Earth planet itself, there are some countries which have more facilities than the other. Yeah, like Europe, America, they are supposed to be more opulent countries. So similarly, there are planets which are more opulent than others, than this Earth planet. But the pure devotee, he doesn't want to go to any of these planets. He only wants to go to the spiritual world. And that also not to the Brahmajyoti. He doesn't want to be situated in the Brahmajyoti. He wants to enter into Golok Vrindavan, the highest planet of the spiritual sky. Why? Because Krishna is there. He wants to be in his relationship with Krishna. So that's the reason he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He's understood that he has this eternal loving relationship with Krishna. And what does he do? What activities does he do? He's taken up bhakti, devotional service, which begins by hearing, chanting, remembering, and then he's worshipping, he's he's serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. So this is the Nava Anga Bhakti, 9 processes of devotional service. And from this, hearing and chanting are very important for us, very applicable to us at our stage. And Prabhupada is mentioning that one can engage in all 9 processes, or 8, or 7, or at least one. At least one to get the perfection. What's the perfection? To revive our relationship with Krishna, this eternal loving relationship with Krishna. So also it is said to give up the association of persons who are not devotees. So it means that associating with the devotees. So we may say, but in the course of our work, course of our life, we have to associate with so many people, and they may not necessarily be devotees. So, but then we associate with them as much as is required. But we follow the instructions of the devotees. That is real association. Whose instructions are we following? So the instructions of the pure devotees. And pure devotional service, Srila Rupa Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, is the leader of the 6 Goswamis. He's written in his book Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada he translated as Nectar of Devotion. And definition is given: Anya Bilashita Shanyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishna Shilanam Bhakti Ruttama. That pure devotional service. Pure devotional service means one has no desire for any fruitive result, fruitive gains, no material desire. Means he has no material desire. He doesn't even have um, any desire for mental speculation. He's given up. He has no desire for any kind of mystic perfection. When one performs the path of mysticism, then one gets certain powers. So the pure devotee, he doesn't want any of these things. He doesn't have any material desires to be fulfilled. He has no desire for mental speculation to become God himself, or he does not have the desire for any kind of mysticism, mystic perfection. And he's favorably cultivating knowledge of Krishna. He's favorably thinking of Krishna in the following in the footsteps of the previous devotees. That is pure devotional service. He's serving Krishna favorably, following in the footsteps of the acharyas. So because Kans, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, Kans was also thinking of Krishna all the time. He was all the time thinking of him because he was so scared of him. What is Krishna doing? What is Krishna doing? He was always thinking how I can kill him. So many, he was just continuously thinking of Krishna. But this is not favorable thinking of Krishna. So this is not pure devotional service. Pure devotional service means favorably thinking of Krishna. How can I please Krishna? How can I be in my relationship with Krishna? How can I serve Krishna? That is what the pure devotee is thinking. That, so a pure devotee, he does not even want to be elevated to the highest planet. His objective is to serve because he's already in his relationship with Krishna. He's already liberated. So for him, it doesn't matter wherever he is. He's always with Krishna, serving Krishna. So a devotee, he's friendly with everyone because he's giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. He understands that we are suffering, each of us is suffering because of our forgetfulness of Krishna, that we have forgotten we have this loving relationship with Krishna. And the pure devotee, what is he doing? He's working very hard to give Krishna consciousness to each and every one of us. He wants everyone to become Krishna conscious. And in this way, he understands that each and every one of us will become happy. And that's the reason he's our best friend. He's friendly to everyone. So Prabhupada is giving the example of Lord Jesus Christ, that how he sacrificed his life. For what? To give love of God to everyone. He wanted everyone to love God. So Prabhupada is also giving examples of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was beaten in 22 marketplaces because he was chanting the holy name. But Lord Chaitanya protected him, Krishna protected him. Prahlad Maharaj, because he was always chanting, Hiranyakashipu gave him so much trouble. But, but Krishna protected them. Krishna protected him. So the pure devotees, they are always trying for our benefit. They want us to revive our relationship with Krishna. They understand that each of us is suffering because we have forgotten our loving relationship with Krishna. So the best way we can help one another is to help revive this relationship with Krishna. Give Krishna consciousness to everyone. This is what Krishna wants. Krishna wants each and every one of us to go back So if we can give Krishna consciousness to others, give give Bhagavad Gita to others, give Srimad Bhagavatam. There is Bhadra Purnima coming up in September, and Bhagavatam says that anyone who makes a gift of Srimad Bhagavatam on this day of Bhadra Purnima, then he goes back home, back to Godhead. This verse appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhadra Purnima is coming up. It's a nice opportunity to donate a Bhagavatam to someone and then go back home, back to Godhead. Janmashtami is coming up. It's a good time to distribute books, to give Bhagavad Gita, so that everyone else also can be benefited. Others can be benefited. So Krishna, he is the original form of God. There are so many different forms which are coming all from him. As we say, there is one original candle. With that original candle, we can light so many hundreds of other candles. And all the candles are giving equal heat and light, but yet there is one original candle. So from Krishna, Sham Sundar Krishna, two-armed Krishna had holding a flute, a peacock feather. From him are so many expansions are coming, so many incarnations. Narayan has come, Lord Narayan. All the Mahavishnus, the Purusha avatars are coming from him. All the different avatars are coming from him. The original form of God, Krishna. Etecha amsa kalapamsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Bhagavatam says that. So, um, Lord Brahma says in Brahma Samhita how we can see Krishna everywhere when we revive our love for Krishna, when we smear our eyes with the salve of love. So when one has love for Krishna, one can see Krishna everywhere. Just as the mother loves the son, so she sees even if she sees a bag, she remembers her son. So this is what Prabhupada is helping us explain, that in this verse, how one can practically engage in devotional service and revive one's love for Krishna. Engage in hearing, chanting, working for Krishna, offering the result of all the activities to Krishna, and go back home, back to Godhead. Any questions or comments? So then we can begin chapter 12, devotional service. Arjuna Vachan.
Arjuna Uvacha
Evam Satata Yuktaye
Evam Satata Yuktaye
Bhaktastvam Parupasate
Bhaktasvam Paryupasate
Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam
Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam
Tesham Ki Yoga Vittamaha.
Tesham Ki Yoga Vittamaha. Translation. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, the and universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalist can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personal devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna but in meditation of the impersonal Brahman. the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization for the absolute truth, bhakti yoga devotional service is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to the devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that bhakti yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not a material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme whole and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again in the eighth chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And and at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all the yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So, in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, these are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyotir. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to this love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth.
So Arjuna, he is making this inquiry, which is perfect. Which kind of transcendentalist is perfect? Which kind of persons who are searching after the absolute truth is perfect? One who understands the absolute truth is a person who's engaging in your devotional service, or the others who accept that the absolute truth is impersonal. So, which is perfect, Krishna? Arjuna is asking. There's always two kinds of transcendentalists, one who understands that God is a person, and one who understands that God is impersonal. So Arjuna wants to know which is better, because Arjuna, he's a personalist. He has a personal relationship with Krishna. He understands Krishna as God, and that he has a personal relationship with Krishna. He understands everything is coming from Krishna. He saw the universal form, he saw the four-armed form, Vishnu form. So Krishna showed him all this. So he understands that the original form of God is two-armed, Sham Sundar form, And from this form, all other forms are coming. That's the easiest way to understand. And the impersonal feature is also coming from the body of Krishna, the light. The Brahma Jyoti is coming from the light, from the body of Krishna. So when one understands God as a person, then he has a complete understanding of the absolute truth. All the doubts, um, the unclarity, everything gets clarified. Just as when we are seeing a hill from far away, we can't see it very far, but the closer we go, we can see it better and better. From far, it just looks like a cloud. We go closer, we can understand, oh, it's green, seems to be filled with trees. When we actually go inside, we'll see, oh, there's different types of fruits, flowers, there are different waterfalls, different areas to sit, so many different things. So the more closer we go towards God, the more complete understanding we have of the absolute truth, uh, the more our doubts are clarified. So when we understand that God is a person, that's the most perfect understanding of the absolute truth. So, and then when one understands that, then what does he do? He engages in devotional service. He understands that, oh, I have a loving relationship with God. So let me be engaged in that relationship. So whoever wants to have a loving relationship with God, they take up devotional service, take up bhakti. Devotional service begins by hearing from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we understand, Krishna is telling us in the second chapter that we are not the body, we are spirit souls. We are spiritual sparks, and absolute truth is a spiritual whole. Is the spiritual whole? We are part of the spiritual whole. So Krishna is the complete manifestation of the absolute truth. We are part and parcel of Krishna. We are Jivatma, Krishna is Paramatma. We are Anu, Krishna is Vibhu. We are the soul, Krishna is the super soul. So Krishna has a form, a Satchidananda form, a transcendental form, a most beautiful form. We can be with Krishna, we can see Krishna, and that is the highest spiritual realization. So this is what Arjuna wants to understand, that which is the perfect understanding of God, understanding him as a person or just understanding him as something impersonal, that that God has no form. And here Lord Krishna clarifies. Sri Bhagavan Vacha,
Shri Bhagavana Uvacha
Mai Aveshya Manoye Ma
Mai Aveshya Manoye Mam
Nitya Yukta Upasate
Nitya Yukta Upasate
Shraddhaya Parayopetas
Shraddha Parayopetas
Te Me Yukta Tamamata.
Te Me Yukta Tamamata. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi.
So Krishna is saying that those who understand that Krishna is a person and who are always serving him, engaged in worshipping him, the bhaktas, they are the most perfect, who are in this relationship with Krishna. He's saying they are the most perfect. So Krishna is saying that Bhakti Yoga is the most perfect. And Krishna is saying that the pure devotee, here Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, is doing everything for Krishna. He's hearing, he's chanting, he's reading. All his activities are related to Krishna because he has love for Krishna. He's cooking, even if he's going to the market, he's going to buy something, bring it, cook it, offer it to Krishna. He's cleaning the temple of Krishna. So everything he's doing for Krishna. So he's in samadhi. Samadhi means fixing the mind on Krishna. And the pure devotee, his mind is always fixed on Krishna. How can I serve Krishna? How can I please Krishna? And Krishna is saying he's the perfect yogi, the one who's always thinking of Krishna. As a person, Krishna is a person. God is a person. And that is the complete, perfect understanding of God. Yetva aksharam anirdeshyam
Yet aksharam amirdeshyam
avyaktam paryupasate
avyaktam paryupasate
sarvatra gam achintyam cha
sarvatra gam achintam cha
kutastam achalam dhruvam
kutashtam achalam dhruvam
san saniyamendriya grama
saminyam yendriya gramam
sarvatra samabuddhaya.
sarvatra samabuddhaya
Te prapnuvanti mam eva
te prapnuvanti mameva
sarvabhuta hite rata.
sarvabhuta hite rata.
You can read?
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't. Translation. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Purport. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal. Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches a Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often, there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult.
So Krishna, in the first verse itself, he said that the bhakti yogi, one who understands that God is a person, he's worshipping, engaged in it, worshipping Krishna is the best. And now Krishna is saying one may be following the impersonal path. And for him, after much endeavor, after many, many births and deaths, he also will come to Krishna. At last he will come. Krishna says, Bhaunam Janmanamante Jnanavanmam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. And one who's actually in knowledge, after many, many births and deaths of cultivating knowledge, then one will understand, I have to surrender to Krishna. At last he comes to Krishna. So that is the indirect process. Whereas Krishna is telling us the direct process in Bhagavad Gita. He's saying, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Krishna is saying, just give up everything. Don't take the indirect process. Take the direct process. Surrender unto me. He's saying, engage your mind in always thinking of me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Offer obeisances to me. And in this way, come to me. So Krishna is encouraging us to take the direct process. He does not want us to take the indirect process. But we have a free will, free choice. And if one wants to take the indirect process, he can. It's more tedious, very, very difficult. It takes up a lot of time, takes up many, many births and deaths. One has to completely control all the senses, engage service to everyone. And in this way, one has to realize that each and every one of us is a soul, that the super soul is there everywhere. But it's not easy. This kind of realization is not easy, and it cannot be gotten in just one life. It takes lifetimes and lifetimes. But the direct process is easy. One can easily see, oh, the deity of Krishna is there. Let me offer service to him. Let me hear about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Let me chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Let me eat Krishna Prasad. So this is easy method. Okay. Let's see. This is a bit longer. Anyway, let's see how much we can finish up this. So klesho tika tarastesham
Kleshodhika sam
avyaktam satta chetasam
avyaktasaktashetasam
avyakta hi gatir dukkham
avyakta he gatir dukkham
deha vadhir avapyate.
deha vadhir avyapyate. Translation: for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Gyan yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti yogis. Now, here, the difference between Gyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Gyan Yoga, although ultimate, ultimately bringing us to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to supply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna of the supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mail boxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere but which is not authorized by the post office will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. The Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all powerful, therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So, for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deities, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of the foodstuff offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead take the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spend his whole life in that way. The result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Gyan Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is again the nature of a spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore the devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Krishna is saying that those who are attached to the unmanifested, that who are attached to the impersonal feature of Krishna. For them to actually understand the absolute truth is very, very difficult, not easy. Why? Because we are conditioned souls, we are inside the body, it's not easy for us to understand some concept, For us to understand person, form is very easy because we all have forms. So to understand, there is spiritual form. Okay, we have material form, but there is spiritual form. So the Archa Vigraha, that's the form that Krishna has kindly taken so that he can accept our service. Krishna is everywhere. Uh, he's in every atom of the universe. So he's also in the Archa. He's also in the Archa Vigraha, the deity. We may say what the deity is made up of stone and wood, but Krishna is there in every atom. So he's in the deity also. So Prabhupada is explaining that, that there are we just take up any box and we post letter in it. Nothing's gonna go. The letter will remain there forever. But if we go to a proper mailbox, which is authorized by the government, postal authority, we post a letter there. For sure, it's going to reach the destination. Why? Because it's authorized. The mailman will go there, pick up the letter, and he will take it to the destination. But if we're just simply going to pick up any box and paint it and put a letter there, it's going to remain there. So similarly, the deity form is not just ordinary wood or clay or stone. It's representing Krishna. Krishna is accepting our service through the deity. We are offering foodstuff to the deity. Krishna is accepting our foodstuff through the deity. We are offering flower to the deity. Krishna is accepting the flower through the deity. We are offering water to the deity. Krishna is accepting this water through the deity. As the deity, he is accepting because the deity is Krishna. So, as the deity, he is accepting our love, our devotion, whatever we are offering him, some water, some flower, some obeisances. We offer obeisances to the deity. Krishna is accepting it. So this is an easy method. Krishna is saying, become my devotee, offer me flower, offer me water, offer obeisances to me. So we can do that. It's easy to do that. Approach the deity and offer. But if we have to try to understand the unmanifest, the impersonal feature, it's very, very difficult because it's against the nature of the soul. After all, we are all individuals. The soul is an individual. We each have individual identity, spiritual identity. So for us to think that everything is impersonal, it's very difficult. It goes against the nature. For example, um, the mother is telling the child that this is your father, and so the child can accept the authority of the mother and enjoy a loving relationship with the father and enjoy all the benefits of that relationship. The father will provide for him, maintain him, give him everything. But if the child says, no, I'm not going to believe you, I'm going to go and ask every man in the world who's my father. So what is he doing? He's wasting his time and energy. And also he may come to the wrong answer. Somebody may cheat him, and he may not be able to meet every person. So the doubt will always remain in himself. But he can simply accept the authority of the mother. Yes, this is my father, and be in the relationship with the father instead of wasting time trying to do some research work which doesn't make sense. He can, in fact, have a relationship with the Father, loving relationship. And the Father can easily provide him with all the maintenances. So, similarly, the Vedas are telling us, oh, Krishna is our Supreme Father. The Vedas are our mother. And they're telling us Krishna is our Supreme Father. We have a loving relationship with Krishna. And we can engage in this relationship. We can begin by hearing, chanting, offering prayers. And if we say, no, no, I don't want to do that, I'm going to do a research work by myself. So we are going to lose out on our relationship with Krishna. We are going to engage much time and energy in some research work, of which the result, we may not even come to a proper result because our mind is limited. It's material after all. How can we approach the spiritual with our mind? And it may take lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And yet, in the end, Krishna says that one who's on that path, ultimately, after many births and deaths, he will realize that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that Krishna is the one who I have to surrender to. Why? Because it's the truth, it's a fact. Each of us have to surrender to Krishna. He's the cause of all causes. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. That's a fact, and nobody can change it. What is our belief? We cannot change our fact. Fact is always a fact and not affected by our belief. So Krishna is encouraging us to take up the direct bhakti path. He's saying, take up devotional service. Take up hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, and in this way come to the spiritual world, come back to me. Because you belong in the spiritual world. And we have a loving relationship with Krishna. So he wants us to revive this relationship soon. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's stop here for today. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.